First of all, what's the plan to avoid a shutdown? Is there one yet?
Yes, there is. We certainly think both Democrats and Republicans and the president, nobody wants to have a shutdown. And we got all the way up to the end of March to do the CR so we can move forward. We're waiting to get the top lines. By the top line says how much money we're going to spend, how we're going to divide that. That will be impacted also by the executive orders that the president signed on immigration. I sit not only on defense appropriations, but I also sit on homeland appropriations. I've been there 10 years. And I do understand that, I certainly want to put money for detention beds. I certainly want to put money for deportation, but deportation's expensive. So we got to focus on deporting the criminals first, deporting the final, there's 1.3 million people that have final deportation orders that are still hanging around, but they were told by a judge to leave. We also should focus on people that are risk to our national security. So those are the folks that we ought to focus on, some of the recent crossers also. But if somebody's been here 10 years, no criminal record, or a dreamer, we got to think about the impact on the economy. Who's going to do the jobs in the agriculture fields and the construction and other areas? So focus on criminals, risk to national security, final deportation orders. Those are the ones we ought to focus on. And therefore, the money has to be put in that area.
So talking about immigration and deportation and the economy, you heard the president's border czar, Tom Homan, say that he needs $90 billion to start these mass deportation efforts and get that program going. What's your take on that?
I've been talking to Tom Homan. I've known him for many years. I spoke also to Stephen Miller yesterday, who's the president's point on Homeland at the White House. I spoke to Christy Nomi also. They all three wanted to sit down and talk to me. So I certainly want to sit down and give them a perspective from somebody who doesn't just visit the border, but actually lives at the border. So I certainly want to give them some of my thoughts on how we can do. Now, keep in mind that the Homeland Appropriations total budget doesn't even hit $90 million, which is what we're talking about. So I think the effort is going to try to give them as much money as we can for deportations. And I've done that. I've increased monies for deportation, ICE air, removals, detentions. Those things are important, and I've added monies, but this is a large amount of money. So I don't think it'll get to the 90 million. I might be wrong, unless if the president moves down, because he did do an emergency order. Maybe he'll move money from other places. But keep in mind, if you're going to add more ICE officers, it takes time to hire people. If you're going to get detentions, it takes time to build up those detention beds, unless if you go to local jails that are willing to put some of those folks there. So that's why I want to sit down. There's certain areas that I think we can sit down. I added monies to ICE air, which is deporting people. We just can't send everybody to Mexico. We need to deport a lot of the people from the countries they're from. And right now we've seen people from over 150 countries that have come to our U.S. borders.
When you're looking at the president's stance and what he wants to do with immigration, obviously we know the administration is very focused on the border. The CBP One app is gone. There's an emergency declaration on the border. The president's looking at putting troops on the ground there at the U.S.-Mexico border, the Texas-Mexico border. What's your reaction to all that?
Well, I certainly support a lot of it. Catch and release. Yes, I've been saying we ought to stop catch and release for years. Stay in Mexico. I support that. And other things, that the president has talked about, but there are some questions on some of them. For example, when you declare an emergency and you want to bring the military down there, keep in mind that it is against the law to have the military do law enforcement. It's against the law. But if they're there to support, build things, that we've done in the past, and I certainly support that. When you talk about getting rid of the 14th Amendment through an executive order. I don't think that can be done. I might be wrong, but I don't think that can be done. So there's things that I support the president, the catch and release and stay in Mexico and other things that I support. But there's some other things I think we need to get clarification.
When you're looking at spending, your colleague Chip Roy, who also represents Texas, parts of San Antonio, of course, you've heard him on the House floor, very much against spending more without finding ways to pay for things. What is your stance on it?
Well, I'm a blue dog and I believe in a balanced budget. And we did have a balanced budget. The last time we had a balanced budget was in late 90s. A Democrat named President Clinton and a Republican, Newt Gingrich, which I just saw yesterday. And they were able to do it together, come with a balanced budget. So I believe in a balanced budget. I believe in spend only what you have. But keep in mind right now, the problem that we have in Washington, D.C. is that the discretion of funding has slowed down considerably, which is everything, military, homeland, transportation, all that. What's been growing, which is about 2/3 of the budget, is the entitlement, Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits. Those things have been growing. So the part that we have a say-so is 1/3 of it. And keep in mind that there's less money coming in than money going out. And very simply, everybody loves tax cuts. I voted for tax cuts, but that means less money coming in and more money going out.
How big of a job is it here? I mean, you're on the Appropriations Committee. You've got the Republicans are in control now, very focused on spending. They've got a very slim majority at the same time. So how big of a job here is it for Congress as a whole to come up to an agreement, keep the government open, and not have these CRs where you just kick things down the road a few months every time?
I want you to look at the appropriation history or even Homeland appropriation subcommittees. It's been the Democrats that have actually carried the day, even when the Republicans are in charge. When you look at the recent appropriation bills, Republicans have been in the majority, but it's the Democrats that carry. So they got to work with us. And that's all, I'm a big believer in bipartisan. I support, working together. So the Republicans, at the end of the day, they control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. I understand that. But look at the actual votes. It's been the Democrats that have helped get this done. So hopefully they will include us, and they will include us. We can talk later. Once we get something, look at the numbers, and you'll see less Democrats, but more Democrats on the final bill.
And the last one I have for you, Congressman, in the first few days of this new Trump administration, we're seeing a lot less resistance from the Democrats to policies, to legislation, to bills. What is your message to your Democratic colleagues as we start the new Congress and the new administration?
Well, there's still a lot of Democrats that still are not in agreement, but I've been in strong support of border security. I've been in strong support of oil and gas. And sometimes I'm the only Democrat. Sometimes I'm one out of two Democrats. But again, we got to vote on not what the party wants. And I say that to Democrats and Republicans. I think President Kennedy said it best. We don't come up here to vote for the party. We vote on what's best for the country. And I say that to both Democrats and Republicans, the extreme left and the extreme right. So there are votes where I'm the only Democrat, and I'm okay with it. And I think, if you look at what happened in South Texas, President Trump won a lot of those South Texas counties. Starr County, first time in 130, 40 years that voted for a Republican. Trump won it by 58%. I won it by almost 70%, and I can go county by county. So it's knowing how to be what's good for the people, strong border security, supporting oil and gas, just common sense policies instead of supporting the party.